My boss smiled as she told me I was fired, thinking she had won. What she didn't know was that I had been planning for this moment for months, and by the time she realized what I'd done, it was already too late. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted, hit that like button and subscribe because this story will show you what true revenge looks like. Buckle up because this is going to get intense. Hi, my name is Claire Bennett, and this is the story of how my life was destroyed. And how I destroyed them right back. For 15 years, I worked at Drake and Carter Enterprises, a high-end marketing firm run by two people, James Carter, the charming CEO, and Evelyn Drake, the cold, calculating CFO who ruled the office with an iron fist. When I first started, I was just a shy 23-year-old fresh out of college. Evelyn saw something in me back then, or so I thought. She became my mentor, guiding me through every big project, teaching me how to navigate the corporate jungle. For years, I gave her my loyalty, my creativity, my life. I stayed late every night, worked weekends, even skipped vacations just to meet impossible deadlines. I saw her more than I saw my own family. And it paid off, or at least it seemed like it did. I climbed the ladder faster than anyone else, eventually becoming head of marketing strategy, second only to Evelyn herself. Everyone in the company knew me as Evelyn's right hand. But what they didn't know, and what I didn't realize until much later, was that Evelyn never saw me as an equal. To her, I was just a tool. I started noticing little things over the past year. Evelyn taking credit for my ideas in meetings. Promotions that should have gone to loyal employees like Emma Lawson instead going to snakes like Sophia Turner, who just happened to be Evelyn's lunch buddy. And Evelyn's smiles, they weren't genuine anymore. There was a sharpness behind them, like she was always 3 steps ahead, planning something I couldn't see. Emma, my closest friend at work, warned me. Claire, she whispered one late night as we cleaned up after a big presentation, I think Evelyn's setting you up. She's been talking to Sophia a lot lately in private, and I overheard something about a big change coming soon. I laughed it off at first. Evelyn wouldn't betray me, not after everything I'd done for her, right? But then I found an emails. It wasn't meant for me. I stumbled upon it by accident while preparing slides for a meeting. It was from Evelyn to James Carter. The subject line read, Claire Transition Plan. My stomach dropped as I read the first line. James, as discussed, we need to phase Claire out quietly. After the merger, she'll no longer be necessary to the company's future. I'll handle the termination personally to avoid any unnecessary drama. My hands shook so badly I almost dropped my laptop. 15 years, 15 years of loyalty, and she was planning to toss me aside like trash. That night I didn't sleep. My heart was pounding too hard. I kept replaying every moment in my head, every late night, every sacrifice, every time I defended Evelyn against office gossip. By morning, my grief had turned to rage. And that's when I made a decision. Evelyn thought she was 3 steps ahead, fine. I'd be 10 steps ahead. She thought she was planning to destroy me quietly. She had no idea I'd already started planning to destroy her. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't even call in sick. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of cold coffee, staring at a blank notebook. My mind was a storm, but one thought rose above the chaos. If Evelyn wants to play chess, I'm going to play to win. The first thing I needed to do was understand her motive. Why was she pushing me out after all these years? It couldn't just be about a merger. Evelyn was smart, cunning even, but she was also greedy. She never made a move unless it benefited her directly. I remembered something Emma had told me weeks ago, rumors of a big corporate merger. James Carter had been working behind the scenes to merge with a European firm called Silverpoint Global. This merger would double our market share and bring in millions in bonuses for the executives, but it would also mean layoffs for anyone deemed non-essential. I wasn't just non-essential, I was a threat. Evelyn knew that my team and I handled most of the marketing accounts. If the European firm saw my track record, they'd likely choose me over her for the leadership position. Evelyn couldn't risk that. That was her motive. And now I had a motive too: revenge. I started digging, but quietly. I still went to work every day, smiled at Evelyn, pretended everything was fine. Inside, though, I was watching her every move. One night, long after everyone else had gone home, I stayed late under the pretense of finalizing reports. I slipped into Evelyn's office using the spare keycard I'd been given years ago when I was still her trusted assistant. My hands trembled as I scrolled through her computer. At first, it was boring stuff: spreadsheets, expense reports, corporate memos. But then I found a folder labeled Silverpoint Confidential. Inside were dozens of files and one email thread that made my blood run cold. Evelyn wasn't just maneuvering to push me out, she was embezzling money. Over the past year, she'd been siphoning off small amounts from company accounts, hiding them within fake marketing expenses. She planned to blame me for it during the merger transition, claiming I'd mishandled funds. That witch. She wasn't just going to fire me, she was going to ruin my career. I'd never work in marketing again. My reputation would be destroyed. I copied every file onto a secure flash drive, my heart racing like I was robbing a bank. As I slipped out of her office, I heard footsteps down the hall. Panic surged through me, but it was only Emma. She froze when she saw me. "Claire, what are you doing here this late?" she asked, concern etched across her face. I hesitated, then whispered, "Emma, you were right. Evelyn's planning something big, and she's going to frame me for it. I need your help." Emma's eyes widened. "Oh my God, what do you need me to do?" For a moment, relief washed over me. Emma had always been loyal, always had my back. Together, maybe we could take Evelyn down. Over the next week, we quietly began gathering evidence. Emma helped me track suspicious transactions while I focused on Evelyn's movements. We couldn't let her suspect anything, so I continued to play the role of the devoted employee. Meanwhile, I started laying the groundwork for my revenge. I reached out to a contact I'd made years ago, a private investigator named Mark Davis. He owed me a favor after I'd helped him with a tricky PR situation involving a client scandal. Mark was discreet and ruthless, exactly what I needed. "Claire," he said when I explained the situation, "this isn't just corporate backstabbing. This is white-collar crime. If you want to take her down, you need airtight proof." "That's why I called you," I replied. "I already have some files, but I need more. I need you to find out where the money is going and who she's working with." "Consider it done," Mark said, his voice low and serious. The deeper I dug, the more twisted Evelyn's plan became. She wasn't just embezzling, she was colluding with Silverpoint executives to secure herself a secret position in the merged company. She agreed to hand over sensitive client data in exchange for a massive payout and a guaranteed role at the new firm. And the worst part, she planned to throw me under the bus for the data breach too. I stared at the evidence one night, bile rising in my throat. 15 years, I whispered to myself. 15 years, and she thinks she can destroy me just like that? No, not this time. That's when my revenge plan crystallized. I wouldn't just stop Evelyn. I would make her beg for mercy. 2 days later, Evelyn called me into her office. She smiled sweetly, but her eyes were sharp and cold. "Claire, I need to talk to you about some changes coming to the company," she said smoothly. "Of course," I replied, feigning innocence. "What kind of changes?" "Just restructuring," she said with a wave of her hand. "Nothing to worry about, but I need you to start documenting all your processes and projects, just in case we need to transition your responsibilities." My stomach twisted, but I forced a smile. "Of course, Evelyn, I'll get right on it." Inside, though, I was screaming. This was it. She was preparing to cut me loose. As I left her office, Sophia smirked at me from her desk. She knew that snake was in on it. But little did they know I wasn't just documenting my projects. I was documenting everything Evelyn was doing, creating a detailed trail of her crimes. The clock was ticking, and soon Evelyn would make her move. But when she did, I'd be ready. That night, Mark called with new intels. "Claire, we've got her," he said. "She's been funneling the stolen money into an offshore account under a fake name. I've got the account numbers, transaction records, the whole thing." My pulse quickened. "Are you sure it's solid?" "Solid as concrete," Mark confirmed. "When this blows up, she's going down hard." I hung up and stared out my window at the city skyline. For the first time in weeks, I allowed myself a small, cold smile. "Game on, Evelyn," I murmured. "Game on." The next morning, I woke up with a sharp clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. The fear and anxiety that had been gnawing at me were gone. All that remained was a single, razor-sharp focus: destroy Evelyn Drake. When I arrived at the office, the entire floor felt off. There was a buzz in the air, a nervous energy I couldn't quite place. Sophia was whispering with two other employees by the coffee machine, her eyes darting toward me and then away as if I'd caught her doing something forbidden. I didn't confront her, not yet. I just gave her a pleasant smile, one that I knew would make her paranoid. If she suspected that I knew something, she'd go running to Evelyn, and that was exactly what I wanted. Let them think they were in control. I spent the day working diligently, finishing up reports, answering emails, doing everything a model employee would do. Meanwhile, under the surface, my plan was in motion. By now, Mark had provided me with enough proof of Evelyn's embezzlement to ruin her completely. Offshore accounts, fake vendors, falsified invoices, it was all there, meticulously documented, but evidence alone wasn't enough. Evelyn was powerful, well-connected. If I went straight to the board or to James Carter, she'd spin the story before I could even blink. No, if I wanted to destroy her, I needed to time it perfectly. I had to let her dig her own grave, make her so confident and arrogant that she wouldn't see the trap closing around her until it was too late. That afternoon, I called Emma into a small conference room. She looked pale, her hands shaking slightly as she closed the door behind her. "Claire, this is getting really dangerous," she whispered, "if Evelyn finds out what we're doing." "She won't," I interrupted firmly. "We've been careful. Have you gotten the files I asked for?" Emma nodded and slid a folder across the table. Inside were detailed logs of every suspicious transfer Evelyn had authorized over the past year. Emma had pulled them from the company's internal system, risking her own job in the process. I squeezed her hand. "You're saving my life, Emma. I promise you when this is over, Evelyn won't be able to hurt either of us again." Tears welled up in Emma's eyes. "Just be careful, okay? I can't lose my best friend." I gave her a small, tight smile. "You won't. I've got everything under control." But deep down, I knew control was a fragile thing, and Evelyn was too cunning to underestimate. Later that week, Evelyn announced an emergency staff meeting. Everyone gathered in the main conference room, murmuring nervously. Sophia sat near the front, her posture smug, like a queen waiting for her coronation. Evelyn swept into the room like she owned it, her tailored suit immaculate, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. James Carter followed behind her, looking weary but composed. "Thank you all for coming," Evelyn began, her voice smooth and commanding. "As many of you know, our company has been in talks with Silverpoint Global regarding a potential merger. Today, I'm pleased to announce that those talks have been successful. The merger will be finalized within the next 30 days. The room erupted in polite applause. I clapped too, hiding my clenched jaw behind a fake smile. "Now," Evelyn continued, "with any major restructuring, there will be some changes. Certain positions will be evaluated to ensure efficiency moving forward." Her gaze flicked toward me for the briefest second, a glint of triumph in her eyes. My stomach twisted, but I kept my face neutral. We'll be speaking to some of you individually over the next week, she said, to discuss transitions and next steps. Next steps. That was corporate speak for you're about to be fired. The meeting ended and people filed out, whispering nervously to each other. I lingered behind, pretending to gather my notes. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Evelyn lean in close to Sophia, whispering something that made them both smirk. I wanted to march over and slap that smirk off Sophia's face, but instead I forced myself to walk calmly back to my office. The angrier Evelyn and Sophia became, the more careless they'd be. And careless people make mistakes. That evening, after most of the office had cleared out, Mark called me with an update. "Claire, you're not going to believe this," he said, his voice practically humming with excitement. "I've been tracking Evelyn's communications with Silverpoint and I intercepted a call today. She's planning to transfer the last of the stolen funds this Friday night. Once that transfer goes through, she'll disappear from the company books completely." "Disappear how?" I asked, my pulse quickening. "She's negotiating a private contract with Silverpoint," Mark explained. "She'll resign suddenly, claim it's for personal reasons, and then reappear at Silverpoint a few months later as their new chief strategy officer. By then, she'll have the stolen money safely tucked away offshore." My grip tightened around my phone, so Friday night is the key. "Exactly," Mark confirmed. "If we catch her making that transfer in real time, she won't be able to deny it. It'll be checkmate." I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly. Then we set the trap Friday night. The next few days were excruciating. Evelyn was more smug than ever, strutting around the office like a queen about to inherit a throne. Sophia followed her everywhere, practically wagging her tail. Emma kept me sane, whispering words of encouragement whenever the pressure threatened to break me, but I could see the toll it was taking on her too. On Thursday afternoon, Evelyn called me into her office. "Claire," she said, all false warmth, "I've been thinking a lot about your future here. I'm afraid there may not be a place for you after the merger." My heart pounded, but I forced a calm smile. "I understand, business is business." Her eyebrows lifted slightly, surprised by my composure. "I knew you'd take this well. We'll finalize everything tomorrow afternoon. Until then, let's keep this between us." "Of course," I said smoothly, "you can count on me." As I left her office, I felt a cold, sharp thrill in my chest. Tomorrow was the day. Tomorrow, Evelyn would think she was destroying me. But instead, she'd be walking into her own execution. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my living room surrounded by files, emails, and bank statements, going over every detail one last time. The plan had to be perfect. There was no room for error. At exactly 11:00 p.m., Mark texted me. "Mark, everything's set for tomorrow. Once she makes that transfer, we'll have her dead to rights." I stared at the message, my hands trembling slightly. Tomorrow would change everything. Tomorrow, I'd finally get my revenge. The next morning, I woke before sunrise. My apartment felt eerily quiet, like the world was holding its breath. I sat at the edge of my bed, clutching a mug of coffee I barely tasted, running through my plan over and over in my head. Today wasn't just about survival, today was about justice. I dressed carefully, choosing a sharp black suit and deep red lipstick, a power color. I wanted Evelyn to look at me and see the woman she underestimated for 15 years standing tall and ready to strike. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere was tense. Everyone knew something big was coming. Rumors had been swirling all week about layoffs and restructuring. People whispered in corners, their eyes darting toward Evelyn's office. Sophia, as usual, was glued to Evelyn's side, her grin smug and cruel. "Morning, Claire," she said with fake sweetness as I passed. "Sophia," I replied evenly, refusing to give her the reaction she wanted. I went straight to my desk and powered up my computer. At 9:15 a.m. sharp, a message popped up from Emma. Emma, in position, I've set up the internal trackers like you asked. We'll see every move Evelyn makes today. I exhaled slowly, good, everything was in place. By mid-morning, Evelyn called me into her office. She sat behind her massive mahogany desk, a predatory smile on her face. Claire, thank you for coming, please sit. I took the seat across from her, schooling my features into polite neutrality. What's this about? I asked, as if I didn't already know. As you know, she began smoothly, the merger with Silverpoint is moving forward. Unfortunately, this means certain redundancies. Redundancies, I repeated, keeping my tone even. Yes, she said with mock sympathy. Your role, while valuable, simply overlaps too much with their incoming team. It's nothing personal, of course, just business. I wanted to laugh in her face. Nothing personal. She was about to destroy my entire career and reputation, and she had the audacity to act like it was just a spreadsheet adjustment. But I kept my smile polite and my voice steady. I understand, thank you for letting me know. Evelyn blinked, clearly thrown off by my calmness. She'd expected tears, anger, maybe even begging. Instead, I gave her nothing. We'll finalize the paperwork this afternoon, she said, trying to regain her composure. After that, you'll have 2 weeks to transition your responsibilities to Sophia. Of course, Sophia would swoop in to take my position, probably with a fat raise as Evelyn's reward. I appreciate the clarity, I said, standing smoothly. If there's nothing else, I'll get back to work. As I left, I caught Sophia smirking at me from her desk. Oh, how sweet that smirk would look wiped off her face by the end of the day. The hours crawled by, each tick of the clock tightening the coil of tension inside me. Emma kept feeding me updates via discreet messages. Emma, she's cleared her personal files off her work computer. Emma, large transfer scheduled for 7:00 p.m. tonight. Emma, Sophia just left for an early dinner, Evelyn's still here. Everything was lining up perfectly. Evelyn thought she was untouchable, but she was walking straight into my trap. At 5:30 p.m., the office began to empty out. Most employees left, relieved the tense week was finally over. Evelyn stopped by my desk, her tone syrupy sweet. Don't work too late tonight, Claire, she said, placing a hand on my shoulder. You need your rest for what's ahead. Oh, I'd rest all right after she was completely destroyed. Thanks, Evelyn, you too, I replied, my voice smooth as glass. By 6:45 p.m., only Evelyn, Emma, and I remained in the building. Emma was hidden in a small side office near the server room, monitoring everything from her laptop. I texted Mark. Claire, she's here, transfer should happen any minute. Mark, copy, recording from our end, just make sure she logs in. At exactly 7:00 p.m., I watched from my own monitor as Evelyn accessed the secure financial system. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, entering codes and passwords only top executives knew. She's doing it, Emma whispered over the phone, her voice trembling. The money's moving. Stay calm, I murmured, we need a clean recording. A progress bar crept across the screen. 50%, 75%, 100%. When it completed, Emma hit a key, triggering a silent alert to Mark's system. Every second of Evelyn's actions was now saved and timestamped. Got it, Emma whispered, we've got her, Claire's. I stood, smoothing my suit, my heart pounded, but my mind was crystal clear. Keep recording, I told Emma, now it's my turns. I walked to Evelyn's office, knocking lightly on the open door. Evelyn, got a minute? She glanced up annoyed. Claire, I'm very busy right now. Oh, I won't take long, I said smoothly, stepping inside and closing the door behind me. Evelyn leaned back in her chair, folding her arms. What is it? I smiled, a slow, cold smile that made her frown. I just wanted to thank you, I said softly, for everything. Her eyes narrowed. Thank me for what? For teaching me how to play the game, I replied, my tone dripping with mock gratitude. You've always been such a mentor to me, and tonight I finally got to use what I've learned. Evelyn's frown deepened. What are you talking about, Claire? I tilted my head. Oh, come now, don't play dumb. You've spent months setting me up to take the fall for your little embezzlement scheme. But here's the thing, Evelyn, I saw you coming a mile away. Her face drained of color. What did you just say? I leaned in close, my voice a deadly whisper. I know about the offshore accounts, the fake vendors, the deal with Silverpoint, and right now, every single keystroke you just made is being recorded and sent to people who will be very, very interested. Evelyn's mouth opened and closed like a fish. You're bluffing. I laughed, a cold, sharp sound. Am I? Why don't you check your inbox? You'll find a lovely email waiting there. It's a full report of your crimes, complete with screenshots and transaction logs. CC'd to James Carter, the entire board of directors, and oh yes, the Federal Financial Crimes Division. Evelyn scrambled for her mouse, clicking frantically. A second later, a strangled gasp escaped her lips. No, this can't be happening, she whispered. Oh, it's happening, I said, straightening to my full height. You tried to destroy me, Evelyn, but you forgot one thing. I built this company's marketing empire from the ground up. I know every system, every loophole, every crack in your perfect facade. Did you really think you could outsmart me? Her eyes blazed with fury and desperation. You'll regret this, Claire, she spat. You'll do nothing, I cut in coldly, because by the time security arrives, you'll be escorted out like the criminal you are. Right on cue, a knock sounded at the door. 2 corporate security officers entered, followed by James Carter himself. His face was pale, his jaw tight with barely controlled anger. Evelyn Drake, James said stiffly, please step away from the computer. Evelyn's head snapped toward him. James, listen to me, this is a misunderstanding. Save it, he snarled. We have all the evidence we need, you're done. I stood silently, my heart pounding with triumph as Evelyn was handcuffed and led past me. She shot me one last look, pure hatred burning in her eyes. This isn't over, Claire, she screamed. You'll pay for this. I smiled sweetly. Oh, it's very much over, Evelyn, you just don't know it yet. As the door slammed shut behind her, James turned to me, his expression conflicted. Claire, I don't even know what to say. You saved this company tonight. Just doing my job, I said calmly, though inside, adrenaline still surged through me. But this wasn't the end. Not yet. Evelyn was gone, but Sophia was still out there. And I wasn't finished with her. The moment Evelyn was dragged out in handcuffs, the entire office felt like it shifted. It was as though a heavy, suffocating cloud had lifted, leaving behind a strange, buzzing silence. Employees peeked cautiously from behind cubicle walls, whispering, wide-eyed, trying to make sense of what they had just witnessed. Sophia stood frozen near her desk, her face pale and slack with shock. Her usual smugness had vanished, replaced by raw, naked fear. She looked like a cornered animal ready to bolt. I walked past her slowly, deliberately, like a predator circling prey. Sophia, I said lightly, as if greeting an old friend. Rough night, isn't it? Her mouth opened, then closed again. Claire, I didn't know anything about this, she stammered. I swear I was just following Evelyn's orders. I tilted my head, studying her carefully. Interesting, because Evelyn's been very generous with you these past few months. The promotions, the raises, the private meetings, it would be such a shame if James thought you were complicit. Sophia's eyes widened in panic. No, I didn't do anything wrong, I was just. Just what? I interrupted, my tone cold as ice. Just watching while she plotted to ruin me, just laughing behind my back while you took credit for my work. Sophia swallowed hard, her entire body trembling. Please, Claire, I was scared of her. You know how she was. I had no choice. I leaned closer, my voice low and deadly. You always have a choice, Sophia, you just chose wrong. Before she could respond, James Carter approached, his face still tight with controlled fury. Claire, he said, a word in my office now. Sophia visibly sagged with relief as I walked away, but I didn't miss the way she slumped into her chair like a deflated balloon. Good, let her sweat, her time was coming. James's office was a mix of chaos and confusion. Files were scattered across his desk, and his assistant was frantically fielding phone calls. Claire, James began, rubbing his forehead, I need you to explain exactly how you uncovered this. Evelyn's been with me for over 20 years. I trusted her completely. I trusted her too, I said, my voice steady but firm. But over the past year, I started noticing discrepancies. Money moving in ways that didn't make sense, projects being sabotaged, people being positioned like pawns on a chessboard. I realized Evelyn was manipulating everything and everyone to secure her own future while framing me for her crimes. James's face hardened. Do you have proof? I handed him the neatly organized folder Emma and I had compiled. Every transaction, every fake vendor, every correspondence, it's all here. And there's more, she was in talks with Silverpoint to jump ship after the merger, taking stolen funds with her. James flipped through the documents, his jaw clenching tighter with every page. My God, he muttered, she would have destroyed this company. She almost did, I said softly. But now, thanks to you, the board has a chance to salvage the merger and to rebuild trust. James looked up at me, his expression shifting to one of gratitude. Claire, I owe you an apology. Evelyn convinced me you were becoming a liability. She told me you were resistant to change, unwilling to adapt, even hinted you might be unstable. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. Of course she did. That was her plan all along, to isolate me, make me look like a problem so no one would question her motives. James nodded grimly. Well, I see the truth now. I can't promise this will be easy. There will be fallout from the board, the employees, the merger, but you have my full support moving forward. Thank you, James, I said, though my mind was already moving to the next phase of my plan. Because while Evelyn was gone, Sophia was still a threat. Later that night, after the building had emptied out, I sat with Emma in the quiet conference room. She looked exhausted but relieved. We did it, Emma whispered, her voice tinged with disbelief. I still can't believe Evelyn's actually gone. The way she looked when security took her away, I'll never forget it. Neither will I said, my tone cold, but we're not finished yet. Emma frowned. You mean Sophia? Exactly, I confirmed. Evelyn may have been the mastermind, but Sophia was her willing accomplice. She helped Evelyn isolate me, spread rumors, and undermine my team. If we let her stay, she'll just find another powerful ally and start again. Emma bit her lip nervously. What are you going to do? I gave her a sharp, calculating smile. Make her destroy herself just like Evelyn. The following morning, I watched Sophia carefully. She was jittery, paranoid, jumping every time her phone buzzed. Her perfect facade was crumbling. I sent her an anonymous email at 9:00 a.m. sharp. From Anonymous at SecureEmail.com. Subject: Evelyn's replacement. Body: You're next, we know what you did. Meet me in the parking garage at noon if you want to save yourself. I sat back and waited. At 11:55, I slipped into the security room where Emma was monitoring the cameras. Together, we watched Sophia on the monitors. She looked around nervously, clutching her purse, before hurrying toward the parking garage. Hook, line, and sinker, I murmured. Emma looked uneasy. Claire, what exactly are you going to do down there? I gave her a cold smile, just setting the stage for her own downfall. Sophia was pacing near a dark corner of the garage when I approached. She jumped at the sound of my heels clicking against the concrete. Claire, she gasped, relief flooding her face. Oh, thank God it's you. Did you send that email? What's going on? I tilted my head, feigning innocence. Email, I don't know what you're talking about. Her eyes darted wildly. Someone knows, Claire, they know about Evelyn, about me working with her. Ah, I interrupted smoothly, so you were working with her. Sophia froze, realizing her mistake. No, I mean, that's not what I. Save it, I snapped, my voice cutting like a knife. Here's the reality, Sophia. Evelyn is gone and she's not coming back, which means you have two choices. Confess everything to James and the board right now, or I release the files that tie you directly to her crimes. Her face drained of color. Files you don't have. I held up a flash drive, letting it catch the dim light. Oh, but I do. Every email, every meeting note, every whisper you thought was private. Evelyn was sloppy and you were even sloppier. Sophia's breath came in short, panicked gasps. Claire, please, I'll do anything, just don't ruin me. Anything? I asked, arching an eyebrow. She nodded frantically. Yes, I'll resign, I'll disappear, whatever you want. I leaned in close, my voice a deadly whisper. Here's what you're going to do. Tomorrow morning, you'll submit a resignation letter citing personal reasons. Then you'll send an email to the entire company admitting you lied about me and sabotaged my projects under Evelyn's orders. You'll make it clear I was the victim here, not you. Do that, and I'll consider letting you walk away quietly. Sophia stared at me, trembling, and if I do? I smiled, cold and sharp. Then your life as you know it ends, no career, no reputation, nothing. The next morning, I watched as Sophia submitted her resignation and sent the confession email to the entire company. The fallout was immediate and glorious. Employees who had once whispered behind my back now avoided Sophia like the plague. James called me personally to commend my grace under pressure. By noon, Sophia had cleaned out her desk, her eyes red and swollen from tears. She didn't even look at me as she left the building for the last time. Emma stood beside me stunned. Claire, you actually did it. You took them both down. I exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of weeks of tension lift from my shoulders. No, Emma, I said softly, watching Sophia's car disappear from the parking lot. They took themselves down, I just gave them a little push. But as satisfying as it was, a part of me still felt hollow. Evelyn and Sophia were gone, yes, but they had stolen something from me. 15 years of loyalty, 15 years of my life. And now I needed to decide what came next. The office was quiet the next morning, a strange calm settling over everything. It felt almost surreal walking through those halls knowing both Evelyn and Sophia were gone, two towering forces who had once controlled every corner of this company now reduced to nothing but whispers and shameful memories. For the first time in years, people greeted me with genuine respect instead of forced smiles and fake politeness. Some even apologized. One by one, employees came up to me muttering things like, "I'm sorry I believed the rumors," or "I should have stood up for you, Claire." I accepted their words with a small nod each time, but inside I felt nothing. Their sudden loyalty didn't erase the way they had looked away when I was being humiliated. It didn't erase the nights I'd cried alone, wondering if I was going crazy. This was my victory, not theirs. Later that afternoon, James called me into his office. His usual commanding presence seemed dimmed, humbled somehow. Claire, he began, I've spoken with the board. Evelyn's actions shook this company to its core, but your diligence and courage saved us from complete ruin. I sat silently as he continued, his tone full of gratitude. We want you to take over as Vice President of Operations. It's the least we can do after everything you've done. The offer hung in the air like a glittering prize. 15 years ago, I would have jumped at it without hesitation. This was the role once dreamed of, the position Evelyn had dangled over my head for years while secretly plotting to destroy me. But now it felt hollow. James, I said slowly, I appreciate the offer truly, but I can't accept. His brow furrowed. May I ask why? I leaned forward, my voice calm but firm. Because this place will always remind me of what I went through, of how quickly trust can be broken. I gave this company 15 years of my life, and when Evelyn came for me, no one, not even you, stepped in to stop her. Staying here would be like living in a cage I already escaped from. James's face fell, but he didn't argue. Deep down, he knew I was right. Then what will you do? He asked quietly. A small, determined smile curved my lips. I'll build something new for myself this time, something no one can take away. The next week, I officially resigned. I didn't make a big announcement, didn't give some long-winded speech. I simply packed my things, said a quiet goodbye to Emma, and walked out of that building for the last time. Outside, the sun was shining brightly, warming my face as if congratulating me on my freedom. I took a deep breath and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. But I wasn't done yet. No, there was one final move left to make, my true revenge. I waited 2 weeks before making my next play. By then, Evelyn was sitting in jail, her trial looming. The press had gotten wind of the scandal, and her once spotless reputation was in tatters. I sent her a letter. It wasn't long, just a single sheet of paper with 3 words scrawled across it. Checkmate, Evelyn Clare. I imagined her face as she read it, her perfectly manicured hands trembling with rage and disbelief. She had tried to destroy me, to erase me like I was nothing. And now she was the one erased, her empire gone, her legacy reduced to ashes. It was delicious. As for Sophia, I never heard from her again. Rumor had it she tried to get a job at a rival firm, but after her confession email went viral within the industry, no one would touch her. Last I heard, she was working at a tiny startup in another state, a shadow of the ambitious climber she once was. Sometimes karma just needs a little nudge. 6 months later, I sat in my brand new office, my own office at my own company. Emma sat across from me, grinning as she handed me the first quarterly report. Claire, you did it, she said, pride shining in her eyes. We actually turned a profit in just 3 months. I smiled, a genuine smile this time. We did it, Emma, together. The space was small, modest compared to my old corporate life, but every inch of it felt mine. The air buzzed with possibility, not fear or deceit. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. That night after Emma left, I stood alone by the window, looking out at the city lights. 1,000 memories flashed through my mind, the betrayal, the humiliation, the cold nights I'd spent planning my revenge. And now this moment of peace. You tried to break me, Evelyn, I whispered to the empty room, but all you did was set me free. In the end, Evelyn lost everything, her career, her freedom, her carefully curated image. Sophia was exposed, humiliated, and exiled from the industry she once ruled. And me. I walked away with my dignity, my future, and the satisfaction of knowing that while they tried to bury me, I had been the one holding the shovel all along. Sometimes revenge isn't about shouting from the rooftops or making a grand spectacle. Sometimes it's quiet, a slow, deliberate strike that leaves your enemies wondering when the ground disappeared beneath their feet. In the end, the sweetest revenge wasn't watching them fall. It was standing tall on my own 2 feet, free at last. If this story gave you chills, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Tell me in the comments, what's the most satisfying revenge you've ever seen? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next.